Okay, fine. So let's start.
Yeah,
okay,
please.
So I'll just give a small introduction of Keerthi, where I believe that he has so many things he has been doing, so I think he'll be covering on his canvas.
Sure.
But Keerthi is, why I reached out to Keerthi is the editor-director of the largest Pune-based community for startups called the POCC, Pune Open Coffee Club. How many of you are aware of POCC? I mean, it is the go-to community, and I was telling Keerthi that I have been using that community when I was a student.
Nice, awesome.
So, I got my first job from POCC.
Oh wow!
And that's how community helps. So some company at that time had posted that looking for this, and I just posted them.
Nice.
So that's how small things here and there can help, and that's what I have always believed in power of communities that led me to work on Startup Grind Pune as well, and I always was looking forward to host this session that about taking the power of communities and talking about how effectively anyone can build communities and take advantage of it. Though advantage comes later, of course, you have to.
Yes, you have to give first.
Give first, yes. So, apart from POCC, Keerthi is founder of 100 Rupees. We'll talk about it today. He has been also founder of agriculturecircle.com, edcollaboration.com, blockchain.net.com, and he also hosts coffee on a YouTube series for startups.
It's called Coffee with Keerthi.
Yes, Coffee with Keerthi. So he has been our competitor as well.
Oh, really? in terms of what?
In terms of startup, we also hosted coffee. Keerthi and I have known each other for a bit of time, and we have always engaged in these conversations, and I've always admired Keerthi's openness to bringing transparency to communities and bringing the best of the peoples to communities and helping communities within each other as well. So POCC has been helping Startup Grind a lot as well in promotions and everything. So that's a bit from me. Now I'll take a back seat and it's over to you, Keerthi. So Keerthi, my first question to you, would you like to start maybe a more formal introduction about yourself and things you have been doing?
Sure.
And maybe you can start in a chronological order, like where all you started, your beginnings, where did you go for college?
Okay, so I was born and brought up in Bangalore, so I'm a Bangalorean by birth. So my primary schooling happened in Bangalore, and then my dad's a banker. He's an ex-banker now. He's retired. He's at home, so enjoying his retirement. So he was in the bank, and we used to go across India. I've been in different parts of India. We were sometime in Baroda. We were mostly in Karnataka. So my education has been in Karnataka, and then I did my agriculture graduation in agriculture. Undergrad was in agriculture. That's where Editor-Director came into picture recently, because a lot of people have been telling me that you've done so much in technology, why don't you do anything in agriculture? So I've been itching to do a lot of things in agriculture. So that's why we built that last year. But then soon after I graduated, I was always of an opinion that job was not for me. In fact, there's a story. When we had campus interviews, if you talk to any agriculture graduate, he or she is always wanting to go do a bank job, a bank officer's job. And there was a campus interview that had come, and I had not even filled up the application form. So my dean called me up and he said, "You are such an arrogant guy that you didn't even care to fill the application for this job." I said, "So this is I didn't want to waste a seat at somebody's opportunity, because I will never go and do a job like a job, right? So I'm going to be an entrepreneur, or I might do an MBA. So the better escape for me was I'm going to do my MBA." That's what I told him. But soon after I graduated, I took up entrepreneurship in my backyard. So my first startup was doing a fertilizer. So the company's name was Kadam Food and Agro. So I had no idea of what entrepreneurship is. I just went out and I said, made a business card, and I started looking at, this was in 2004-05. So I opened up newspapers and looked for agriculture people and talked to them and stuff. So it did not go well. So I failed. I failed at many of my startups. A lot of them I can't count now. So someday when I'll be very successful, I'm going to put all of those startups on my LinkedIn page, which is not there already. And then and later on I went to US and saw the startup culture there and a lot of things. So I was doing my MBA and then worked for a hospitality company, and alongside I used to hear, I have also been to a startup grind meetup there in Palo Alto, I think so. Yeah, so I'd gone there, and at that time I didn't know what communities were, what startup is all about, and I only knew that if you're an entrepreneur, back then it was called 10-15 years back it was called business, right? I wanted to be a businessman. I didn't want to be an entrepreneur or startup guy. So and when I was surrounded by all of these Silicon Valley guys, right? So I was like, what is happening here? And then I started off officially as a startup guy. My first startup, not a business but a startup, was in security. So it was called rightclick.com. So we were trying to do one single sign-on for all the websites that you had. Okay. So again, it did not go very as expected. And then 7 years in US, I came back, and when I came back, I said, and at that time in US, I was kind of moonlighting. I was working for a company and I was doing a startup. So when I came back to India, I said, I'm not going to work for anybody whatsoever. Because in US, if you have to really survive, you have to, I was not taking money from my home, right? I have to earn my livelihood, and also I have to do my startup. Startup has always been my passion. So I was trying to do two things, so it did not really work out. So when I came back to India, I said, let's do startup. Real startup. I'm not going to work for anybody from now on. So that's where I started 100rupees.com. And so the journey has been good until now. And of course, POCC came into picture in 2016. So I'll answer any of the questions. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so we'll come directly to POCC. In fact, so you have been the editor-director of POCC. So how did that happen, and why did you think to take that up? Because I think you're building companies.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about taking that responsibility?
Sure. So community word was like something new for me. I didn't know what exactly community meant. So when I started 100rupees.com, I had a team of almost 15 people, and there was this one guy in my team who said, "Have you heard of POCC?" I said, "What's that?" He said, "It's called Pune Open Coffee Club." I said, "Okay." He said, "Maybe you should join that." He used to ask me, this guy, very enthusiastic guy, and he used to ask me, tell me stories about US, what you did there, and all of that things. And then as to kind of, I'm not a guy who talks, who boasts a lot about things. So I used to just talk a little bit. Then he said, "Why don't you try this community?" I said, "Okay." So when I joined POCC, I just looked at the website, and I was kind of trying to interact. I'm not a guy who goes in a community and tries to chat with people. Chat is not what I do. I stay away from the chat, but I try to get involved in the forum discussions. So add value to the community by adding some contribution that would really help others and myself. So I kept contributing there, and 2015 December sometime, the founder of POCC, he put a discussion on POCC on the front page, saying that we're looking for somebody to kind of do the editor work. So and we would be happy to meet people. So that's where I kind of I wrote, and this was in 2015. I had come from US in 2013. I joined POCC in 2013. For the next 2 years, I was kind of contributing a little bit here and there. And even today, if you go on POCC site, you see I am one of the biggest contributors in terms of discussions and stuff. Although the number is very less, but still it's a good number. So I replied to that thread, and Santosh actually emailed me back saying, "Are you really serious?" That was his first comment. He said, "Are you kidding? Are you really serious? You want to take this up?" I said, "Yes, I am serious about this. I'm not kidding." And then he said, why don't we meet for coffee? So we met up at CCD, and there were other couple of guys who had also replied, and he was interested in talking to them as well. And then we sat down. That one coffee discussion was all it took. So he said, okay, here's the login, here's your admin panel, take it over from here. So he said, for him, the community this year alone, this year we turned 10 years. We are yet to celebrate that. We are one of the oldest communities in India for startups. So not but one of the oldest communities. And Santosh and a lot of others have contributed quite a bit. And 2015 end December, he said, we are running out of ideas. We want somebody to come up with some fresh, good ideas and take this community forward. So that's where 2016 January 1st he handed over to me and he said, take it over from you. So that's where it all started with POCC.
Okay. So how has been the journey now?
So the journey has been great because I was what I always thought about POCC was it was only on the website the activity happened, right? And from 2013 to 15, I never attended one single meetup of POCC. That's surprising to myself. I used to see they used to organize events at Atur Center, Symbiosis College, and all of this every Saturday or once every Saturday. So I never attended that. And finally, when I took over, I thought, I have not done this before, but I should, start organizing events. So every month we made sure that we did events. And one thing that I really did well, I think, in my opinion, which previously was not done, was broadcasting messages. So when you have a community, and if you don't engage, if you don't talk to your community, then it's a black hole. The community is there, but you're not communicating with your people. Then you're not. Nobody knows what's happening. It's just a website. It's just events are happening, and you're not talking to them. So that's where I think I started posting, or I started sending these event updates. So when we did events, and I didn't know how to navigate the whole website. This is on Ning still. Ning is really good for communities. Okay. So that's where message broadcast came into picture, and I was like, what is this? Let me see. And then I went in and I started sending one small mailer, and then people started replying to that. People started attending events. And then others, like Startup Grind, there are other communities, they also wanted to push the event. So far, I think, and today also there's a mailer waiting that I have scheduled for. So every day at least, I try to send one mailer. I try not to spam. What I've heard from the community members is it's really, these mailers are useful for them because it updates them about what's happening in Pune, right? What startup events are happening, who are the guys who are doing good things, good work. So that's been my forte. I've been focusing more on that. So when I took it over in 2016, we had about 18,000 plus members. Today we are about almost reaching 25,000. So my contribution has been kind of 6,000, about 6,000 people is what I've added upon that. And the vision is that I just don't want to keep it to Pune only. We want to open up to more cities where we would, we are looking at. There are actually Bangalore Open Coffee Club and I think Delhi Open Coffee Club, but we are not connected so very much. So they independently work. In fact, Open Coffee Club has chapters in 13 countries, is what I dug out after doing a lot of research. But none of these chapters talk to each other. They are all working independently, not like Startup Grind, where you guys actually come together and do a lot of work.
Yeah, in fact, I've seen like Open Coffee Club websites in other cities which are like completely dead as well, like something like Boston Coffee Club, but then there's nothing happening on it. So it's really important, I think, to run responsibly that committee once.
It is a big commitment, because keeping pace with the community is one, I have to curate a lot of discussions. There's a lot of times, and one thing, if you have noticed, if whenever you signed up on POCC, we have a filter. We don't let you in without looking at your profile. So I don't let anybody in because there's a lot of people who spam the community. So you need to make sure that you keep quality. If you miss on the quality part, then the whole community goes to dogs. So you want to keep different filters. Even for blogs, I have filters. I just don't let anybody. So community-wise for POCC, I've tried to keep it as less salesy as possible. So selling does not happen directly. Rather, what I've heard from a lot of POCC members who I meet is they keep telling me that because of POCC, like you said, I got my first job. This is like a classic example for me. A lot of people have said, that because of POCC I got a job. Because of POCC I got 5 clients. Because of POCC, and this is all running automatically. We are not putting in really good efforts on it, but the Americans say, right? Our forefathers have put foundation for the country. That way, the community members early on have put the foundation, which is really valuable for everybody.
Cool. A lot of people starting out new areas and new things they're working on. So, what would be your pitch point to them, like why and how they should be, first of all, why they should consider building communities, and if they are, like what is the way to go and what they should take as some of the steps or some of the tricks of the trade.
Okay. So why you should build community? First of all, if you're a startup founder and if you're not building a community, then you're losing out actually. Why? Because this is an opportunity that your competitor is always looking at. If you don't have, when we say community, it's more about loyalty, right? People, your customers, your any stakeholder, right? Your customer, your supplier, your vendor, your investor, your employees, everybody is looking at one brand, in terms of startup, and they want to associate with your brand, right? And most of us, when we start either a community or a startup, what we are looking at is for marketing, we're looking at digital marketing, we're looking at offline marketing where you put hoardings. We also do for 100rupees.com, we did posters on rickshaws and stuff. But then these are the marketing tricks which will actually ask for a lot of money, and they don't turn out to be as productive as building a community. Why? Because when you build a community, it's a long-term association with your stakeholders. With your advertisements, it's just one touch and go, right? You have to keep doing the advertisements again. So if you're doing digital marketing, you would run a campaign. It would give you a peak of sales for a week, and then for the next 1 month or so, if you're not doing advertisements, it's again gone down, right? So it just gives you peaks. But if you're doing a community, if you're building a community, it keeps a long-term association with your customers and with all the stakeholders, like I said, right? So most importantly, why somebody should build is it's like relationship building. If you're not building relationship, you're trying to sell things, and selling things actually don't work out these days. If this is the vegetable mandi wala jo marketing stuff hai, ye abhi work out nahi hoga. This is not going to work out anymore. You need to build a fan following, you need to build a community. So this is really, really important. That's why. And tricks, well, there's actually no trick. There's no trick to building community. It is like Ramayana. Ramayana mein jitna honesty hai na, utna community building mein. There's always, community always starts with honesty. Honesty, integrity, and like you said, give first. If you don't give, you will never receive. So community mein, and community building starts with, some people say should I build a .com for it? Let's say I'm building a website abc.com, and should I build a community page for it, or how do I do this? So So there are a lot of tricks in terms of how to go about doing that. You could start with a Facebook group, or a page actually does not let people to interact. So groups are really good. In fact, for 100piece.com, we are building a group wherein we are building a secret group. So within that also you could have stuff on Facebook, where on Facebook you could do a public open community, open group, or a closed group, or a secret group. So we chose secret group because we wanted to give our customers and we are calling it 100 Rupees Fun Club. So we want to do fun stuff with 100 rupees. So for 100rupees.com we said we are definitely focusing on affordability, but affordability के साथ और क्या दिया जाए, right? Like Amazon has Prime. Amazon Prime is like bundled up with their other stuff, right? So it's a club, right? So you can actually build a secret club wherein you give exclusivity. When you make things exclusive for a particular group of people, they tend to value it more because you're telling other people that you're not welcome, right? I would only give access to Ayush to come on my club and have fun. All the rest of the people are not welcome. Right. So Ayush can call again. This was
the value perception.
The value perception increases. This is again. If you look at different invitation only kind of communities, right? Like Gmail does this very nicely. Invitation only. Google has always done this. OnePlus has done very nicely, right? So building a closed group wherein value addition happens. So these are some of the tricks. When you talk about tricks, and community, like I said, is all about honesty. It starts with one person. You get in one person, and then you slowly build on that. Community cannot be built overnight. It has to be built organically, and it has to be built on some values. If you don't have values on that community, then it will fade away. Right? So keep things straightforward, transparent, and make sure that people who are coming to that community are getting some value addition, right? Whatever they are coming for, they have to take away something from that particular group, right? So we can talk about a lot of brands who have leveraged this.
Yeah, I mean, if you have any examples that you really admire, maybe you can tell more.
So I was looking at Xiaomi, right? Xiaomi has this thing called fan club. So in every city, they have fan clubs where this is a close community. Only people who have these Redmi Notes or Redmi Mi phones are allowed to have fun and stuff. So they do this, I think monthly or so. They have this fan club stuff, and where that's where actually I got inspiration from when I was looking for my company. When I said fun club, we first started out talking about fan club. And then fan club does not really go with my brand. I wanted to have something as a fun club, so something to do with fun. So we said fun club. But Xiaomi has actually leveraged it very nicely because if you look at the phone industry today, right? What is that Apple has and others don't have? Right?
Fan following. Yeah.
The fan following, right? The cult or associating themselves with the brand, right? Apple does not necessarily have a community like where they get together, but they have like developers community. They have community for support and stuff. But similar to that, there was no other phone company who was doing it. Which is where Xiaomi looked at, we are an Android company and let's build a community for it. And if you really go and read Xiaomi's history, it's like the silent rise of the giant, right? So how did they really grow to become a challenging or a rival to Apple, right? So that only happened because of the community that they've built. And talking about different brands, this morning, I was looking, I was just typing on Google about, I typed Flipkart community. And the first thing that came up was, you can buy, it was called Buy Community Online. It was a book. So Flipkart doesn't have really a community. Then I looked at Ola community, so nothing came up. Then I said Ola Cabs community, nothing came up. And then I typed Uber community. So when I typed Uber community, there was community for drivers, Uber drivers. right? And when I type
Endorsed by
Amazon,
Uber?
huh?
Like
Yes, it's an official Uber drivers community, right? And same as with Lyft. If you look at Lyft community, it is again for drivers. They've made that, that's their one of their stakeholders, right? Drivers talking to each other, right? That's one of the things. And when you look at Amazon, they have a community also. When you type Amazon community, the things that you would see as suggestions is Amazon seller community, Amazon Prime community. So these are the keywords that come up. Whereas when you look at Indian brands, none of them is actually, going after building a community or a loyal fan following, right? So which is not happening, which is, I think, for startup founders here, it's very important for you guys to understand that when you're building your startup, consider your stakeholders. For example, for us, for 100rupees.com, we have now, I'll tell you what 100rupees.com is. We are online movie tickets and more for just 100 rupees. So movie tickets is where we have started, and we'll also be going into different categories where 100 rupees is a price tag. We promise our consumers that you will never pay anything above 100 rupees. So that's our promise to the, other than, shipping is not considered within this. So let me be honest on that. But for us, our stakeholders are theatre owners. So now we're planning, so Book My Show has not done this. Paytm has not done this. There are other people like Tickets New, and there are a lot of other, there are Just Tickets, and there are a lot of competitors who have never formed a theatre owners community. So we are planning to do a theatre owners community where all the theatre owners can talk to each other about their problems that they face. Why is my theatre not getting filled up? Right? Why am I having problems? So, what have you done good at your theatre, at your cinema hall that I can kind of imitate in my city? Let's say, you've done very well in Delhi. So, can I imitate that same strategy in Pune? And there could be a lot of similarities that I can copy from, right? So brands have actually leveraged on all their community, like Airbnb, right? If you go on their Airbnb, the site is community.with airbnb.com. So if you go on that, you could see community for hosts. So people who host guests, right? So they have their own problems going on. They say, there was one of the thread I was reading, the host was complaining that the guest is asking or debating with him about bringing pets and children till 3 a.m. in the morning. And he's like, what do I do? Right? Other guests are putting in their suggestions and their advice of what to do and what not to do. So that is like, if I am a seller on your community, if I'm a stakeholder on your community, what support do I get? Right? So can I talk to a guy or a lady who's doing the same thing in your community? Right, so
business. What I understand is that a community can be a good, crowdsourced way of your support on your product.
It's a support system. It's a support system. For you, you can always rely on this community if you have a problem. You face a problem. Even Android has a community, right? So Android, again, under Android there are a lot of other communities, right? Android Authority and all of them. They have a lot of communities there also. So these are the people who you can rely on, who you can depend on if you are facing challenges. Right. If you go back before the startup era, if you go back to the religions, right, the Christianity, Hinduism and Jainism, Islam and all of these are all communities, right? These all of them had a leader and we all started following them, and some of them blindly followed, some of them actually went and said, sir, kaise contribute kar sakta hu main, right? Some became the close people to that leader and things like that, right? So
and even matchmaking also happened, like the business matchmaking through this community channel as well, like you just went to your religious place and met someone and then because then again you're feeling that okay, you're part of something together, and that's how you rely on each other, and that's how something could happen. So
and again, when you say matchmaking and all, right, so I keep getting emails from anybody, some stranger I don't know, they're in POCC community, like I think from past 3 days I've got 3 emails asking saying you're doing a good job. And just yesterday somebody sent me a message because my name is Keerthi. He said, dear Miss Keerthi, you're doing a wonderful job, and I would like to talk to you about something, and please can you share your number and stuff. So there could be people who kind of ignore such emails, but I'm not the guy. I try to reply every email possible, and that's why if you recently saw my mailers from POCC, I started putting my email address, because somebody told me that one of my friends, she said one of my friends got job through POCC, and she told me thank you, and that girl, and she said don't say thanks to me, say thanks to POCC, not Keerthi, POCC. And she said, how do I get in touch with POCC? So there is a contact at POCC, but that now I've kind of forwarded it to myself. But then, so I started putting my personal email address. So I want to be in touch with my community as much as possible. And I just from last week onwards, I've started putting my LinkedIn profile also. So when you're communicating with your community, make sure there is a open-ended communication string. Where people can get in touch with you. You are sending mailers, you're sending newsletters, but how do I get in touch with that, the owner or the host of that community? A lot of times it's do not reply mailers, right? Yeah. So uske, if under your signature, if you have your email address, so at least people can get in touch with you. And because you said matchmaking, the thing is, when I talk to such people, something else comes up. A lot of times I've observed that when I speak or when I email them back, something else comes up. They say, we were trying to do this and this did not happen, and I suggest them, why don't we, help you do this? Because this will be helpful for our community.
In fact, one of the great realizations that I just happen to see is that Indian brands are probably not actually participating too much into community building as compared to the global brands. So, what I'd also like to ask you is that, somewhere a lot of communities fail as well, especially I think in terms of member, because this is a slow process, this is a marathon. Yeah. It happens that you probably set up your community page, but then no conversation is happening for a month, that also happens. So, are these one of the reasons that people then eventually shift to not managing their community, or are there other reasons? Like, why do you see if there are any observations why communities fail as well?
So it is similar to saying why 90% of the startups fail, right? Why 90% of the startups fail is because they are not persistent enough, right? They have all the resources in the world. They have funding, they have the right technology team, or they have the business team and everything, but the vision of the founder has somewhere kind of taken a depression mode, because nothing is happening. How do I persist? So a lot of times, like for example, for our community, we started this in May. It's called blockchainnit.com. So since I'm a community builder, I thought, and I came across this very nice lecture by Mayank Jain, who's
we have hosted him for blockchain.
Yeah, so he kind of opened my eyes to blockchain, of what exactly blockchain is. When we read about blockchain, it's very confusing, little complicated technology, but he put it very simple, and that's where I said there should be a community where people can actually kind of have a conversation about blockchain community instead of just talking about Bitcoin. Right? People talk about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and they start debating that this is not a good thing to happen in India. Indian government and regulations are not ready for it. There's a ban, this and that, but underlying technology is community. There's blockchain, right? And we started Blockchain Knit as a community to share knowledge, and it's been a month and we only have 22 members, and the number of conversations are only 2 between me and one more member. And people would say, why you still, and it is on Ning, I'm paying for the server cost, and people would say, why would you still keep that community, because nothing is happening. And on my LinkedIn conversations, a lot of where I see blockchain conversations happening, wherein I kind of add value, and I also leave a signature of my community wherein people can join, right? So it is about convincing people that this community is, whatever you're building is important and value addition, and if you don't if you're not in this community, you're missing out on something, and that takes a lot of time, and that's why a lot of communities fail. because community building is not overnight exercise. It is, you start first month you might just have 10-20 members. Second month, you might add for agriculture circle. It's also a community. So for that, we launched this in last year July, and now we have about less than 650 members. And my goal is to have 1 million users on that, right? And maybe in a couple of years, I want to have 1 million users where community is the core, and then we, on top of that, we'll add a marketplace. So that's something that we're building on. But majority reason for failure of a community is one, the person who started the community does not have the appetite to keep it going, and two, they're not working on it on a daily basis. It's a side project and it never takes off because they are not communicating with the stakeholders, right? So communicating with the stakeholders is something that is important.
Okay, so Keerthi, one more thing that I'd like to ask you is some of the unorthodox communities that you've come across, or anything that you can point to that. Because every time I think of a community, it normally would be something like a startup grind or POCC and stuff. But have you ever come across any examples that you can give about communities that are not so apparent as a community? Like, people don't really make out that that's that sort of community. Like, it's not a forum, but it's still a community. Like Apple was like a great example in a way.
Apple is more of a brand than community, right? But when WhatsApp started their groups, right, they didn't really understand, or I think they did not think that these are going to become actually some communities. So I'm part of so many agriculture communities. They don't have any of the pages on Facebook or groups on Facebook or a website or anything to say so. Yeah. But they have these communities and they have it running very successfully where actual contribution is happening. Although I stay away from WhatsApp groups because there's too much noise, right? But some of these communities are very unconventional ones. Like you said, the communities that we have been talking about, like Startup Grind, POCC, there are a lot of meetup groups which have their own communities, Head Start, Startup Club, and there's a lot of them, right? So some of the communities are run by single person, single-handedly, without any volunteer help, and they're doing quite well, but you don't see them happening. And these, unconventional or unorthodox kind of communities are the ones that actually become bigger later. I think when POCC started, they also had this, they didn't have go and talk to 200 people or 500 people. It all started with smaller numbers, like 5 people in a room started something and 10 people in a room started something. So I think most of the communities are unconventional at first. Even Startup Club must have happened. I don't know the history, but I'm sure 2 or 3 guys got together and said, let's do something which is beneficial to as giving back.
In fact, what I have read, Startup Grind, Derek, who started Startup Grind, it all started by he was just organizing a coffee between friends.
Yeah.
Like 4 people, let's just discuss. And then next time we thought about all 4 people, why not we send an email that more people can come in for that discussion. Something like that.
I think it's also important to say that consistency is very important. You can't just do it once and think that this community is going to grow on its own. It's not possible. Even the founder of Startup Grind must have thought and done it every Saturday, every month once. You need to consistently keep touching your community. Otherwise, if you're not doing it, then the community kind of loses its interest.
An example again from Startup Grind experience, my experience I can say is that we make sure that we do an event every month, and now we have reached a stage finally where if we get delayed or something, people also this message, hey, this month no event happening. This month what's up? When is the event happening?
Correct. This has been a problem for us for POCC. We've kind of not done events for so long. Like last year, 17 has been almost like 3 or 4 only meetups we did, and this year also we've done I think 1 or 2. So we want to get back and start doing that. But yeah, it's right now I'm handling a lot of things, so we're kind of running out of bandwidth. Yeah.
In fact, you are actually handling a lot of things.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
More on the entrepreneurship, how do you manage all this, and how do you manage your time? Some tips more on the startup building.
Okay. So, I have a diary on my desk. So I have to write down each and every task that I have to do today. If I don't do that, I cannot actually finish a lot of work. So as soon as I finish one thing, so first thing on my diary every day is a POCC mailer. Okay. That's the first thing you will see. POCC mailer, bheja hai, nahi bheja hai, then check mark, right? So I have to make sure that, let's say I didn't write things on my diary and I finished some task. So I go back on my diary and I write and I check mark that. So it just trains my brain saying that I accomplished so many things today and it was a good day. So the number of tasks that I finished today, it kind of gives me a satisfaction that I did this. And this I started from this year onwards, 2018, because on December 31st, 2017, I said I need to really do something about so many different things that are happening in my life. I have so many, startups that I have to handle, and how do I really, kind of streamline all of this? And this 2018 has been a year of streamlining for me. On 31st December, what I did was I took a paper, and I started writing everything that I did in 2017. Everything, whatever came to my mind, I did this. This was funny stuff. This was good stuff. This was bad stuff. This I should have not done. This was the milestone and all of that. And then when I reviewed back, I said, I need to really streamline. I've really kind of messed up a lot of things. So I need to streamline. So 2018, we started doing a lot of, on the company side also, we started formalizing quite a bit of things. And I'm still in the process of formalizing quite a bit. And handling so many different startups. My goal is to have smaller teams for each of these startups that I have. So one of the things that we are, one of the new projects that we are working is not on that list. So 30th of June we'll have the technology ready, and 1st of July we are rolling that out as well. So for a startup founder, when you don't have a lot of things to do, you actually have a lot of things to do. In the sense, when you're done with your work for the day today, like most of the startup founders, as I know, only have a couple of hours, productive hours in a day. And what do you do the rest of the day? I come up with ideas and I roll out. And I have rolled out as many projects, and I have shut down many projects as well. So I don't know which one is going to click, so I keep trying a lot of things. So for me, I do a lot of things because I'm of a opinion that you only have to be right once, right? Out of the 100 things that you try, one unicorn, right? You just have to hit one something good. So which is why I keep doing a lot of things, and I try to manage time. My colleague is sitting here. I don't work past 5 or 6 o'clock. I try to go home and just kind of relax and spend time with my family. I come early, like 9:30 is when I come to the office, and I try to do most of my work between that time, and I don't take too much pressure. I'm a person. My family already knows that I have a thick skin. No matter how many embarrassments, no matter how many things that people throw at me, I have such a thick skin that nothing affects me. So I don't care. I don't care about what people say, and I think for community-wise also, you have to have a thick skin, because some people would say, why are you doing this stupid community? What is it going to do? Like a lot of people tell me, why are you doing POCC? Why I do POCC is because I feel I want to give something back to the community. I've taken a lot of things from the community, and by doing something to the community, I benefit more than giving, actually. if you really run a community, you will understand, and if you run it honestly, you will understand that you get more benefits out of the community than what you're giving to the community. And you know, the very reason I'm sitting here is again because of POCC. You know, I am very thankful and grateful to POCC, because 2 years back nobody knew me. At least now some people know me, which is good for me. So, but I honestly try to do things. I try to keep the spam out, and a lot of people, they tell things that are irrelevant to startup, right? They come on POCC and they say, they call me, they send me emails and they say you did not approve my blog, you did not approve my event and stuff. I say, boss, this is not at all relevant to this community. If I'm doing if I have a certain parameter for a community, I need to stay true to that. If I kind of start getting every garbage into my community, then community people will say, boss, this is. In fact, when I was sending the mailer about my own self, this thing, I was very embarrassed to send that Startup Grind post Keerthi Kadam on POCC as a mailer. Yeah. I think for Startup Grind, I try to send 2 mailers at least sometimes, whenever possible. And I had a chance to do that, but I try to stay away from that because I don't want to embarrass myself. So I try to cut things and keep it very true and honest approach. Right. There's no trick in doing things. I think the more honest and the more straightforward you are, you build a good community and you build a good relationship. If you build a good relationship, people will value that and your community will actually grow well.
Well said. So, last question from my end. Keerthi, tell us any good communities or people in Pune, in India, in things that people as startups should be knowing, or things you've come across from your end.
Sure. So, I'll tell you about some of the communities that I follow in India. So, of course, in Pune, we have Pune Open Coffee Club. There are different chapters of different bigger organizations. One is Startup Grind. There's Head Start. There's Startup Club. There's a Mumbai community called Rodin Hood. It's called rodinhood.com. It's by Alok Kejriwal, one of very famous guys. Ahmedabad, there is a community called I think it's called Chai Pay. Or Chai Say, something like that. E-Chai. It's called e-chai.com. Ahmedabad has that. And other communities locally, we have and we have also Creative Bharat, Manjula. She runs a community as well, right? So that's one of the growing communities as well. And of course, Startup Grind, Head Start. And then this AHA Ventures, they are doing quite good as a community. They're doing some events and they keep posting that. So you can follow that. Other than that, there are smaller co-working spaces who run communities as well. If you look at the Mesh, which is Pune based, they are doing quite well. They have a community of about 200 plus members. Something. There's the Daftar. They do quite a bit of good stuff. There's a good community called 91 Springboard. They're now coming up in Pune as well. So they have 3 or 4 different chapters. So that's something to look forward as well. And one more thing I would like to add is for POCC also I have a vision that like I told you, I'm going to be sending out a mailer to POCC members soon that we're open to having more cities. But it won't be called Pune Open Coffee Club, it will be called something else. So we are working on that. So it will have its own different chapters where we will train or we will kind of guide. Again, POCC is more of we are a non-profit organization. We do not make any money. It's a non-commercial. I don't make money for my work. None of the stakeholders in the community make money. We are a non-profit. So this way, it's easier for us to reach out. But on let's say agriculture circle, right? So for that also I'm trying to have franchise kind of a community where the main site will be agriculturecircle.com, but then I'll have agriculture circle Nasik, agriculture circle Nagpur, agriculture circle, Bangalore, Chennai, and all of this. And I'm looking for people who are in that particular domain very well connected. Not just connected, but the person should have a drive to run a show, things like that. So yeah.
Okay, great. So let's give a round of applause for Keerthi.